This is the Washington Times front page for Monday, April 22nd, 2024. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden has signed a bill to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, capping an intense 6-month fight over the government's chief surveillance tool. Kerry Pickett and Stephen Dinan report the bill previously cleared the Senate on a bipartisan vote, 60-34, late Friday. Passage came just hours before the law's previous authorization expired, and after the supporters of the bill shot down attempts to add a warrant requirement and roll back its new reach. Section 702 allows the government to collect and search the communications of foreign targets, including communications with Americans and others inside the U.S., without a warrant. The new expansion could compel data centers to cooperate in turning over information that crosses their servers. Civil rights advocates did win a concession to cut the reauthorization of the law from 5 years down to 2. House Speaker Mike Johnson is facing the biggest threat to his speakership after advancing a $95 billion foreign aid package despite major opposition from fellow Republicans. The sweeping package, Alex Miller and Mallory Wilson report, was passed in 4 separate bills. It includes $61 billion for Ukraine, $23 billion for Israel, and $8 billion for Indo-Pacific allies to fend off China. A 4th measure sanctions Iran, Russia, and China and uses seized Russian assets to pay for some of the Ukraine spending. It also includes a provision requiring the social media company TikTok to divest from China within a year. The speaker drew praise from Republican national security hawks for the package, but fierce criticism from far-right GOPers. Johnson and his detractors will have a week-long recess to stew about the aid until the House reconvenes on April 29th. The Biden administration has released its long-awaited overhaul of Title IX, inserting gender identity into the amendment aimed at eliminating discrimination against girls and women in education. Nearly 2 years in the making, Valerie Richardson reports the Department of Education's revision specified that schools must not separate or treat people differently based on sex, except in limited circumstances permitted by Title IX. The rule prohibits discrimination and harassment based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex characteristics in federally funded education programs, the Department of Education said. The final rule takes effect August 1st. The department stressed the regulations do not address transgender eligibility in scholastic sports, which will be covered in a separate rule expected to be released in November. The meeting between German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing last week cast a spotlight on China's stance toward Russia and the war in Ukraine. Andrew Salmon reports China and Russia have aligned themselves against the West despite lacking a formal alliance. They conduct periodic joint military drills, including sea and air patrols in the East China Sea and Sea of Japan, and naval exercises in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. The U.S. and its allies have been irked by China's refusal to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Biden administration has also repeatedly warned China against assisting Russia in the war, now in its 3rd year. And finally, pro-Palestinian groups are moving to chip away at what constitutes hate speech under the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. In Indiana, Valerie Richardson reports a bill to enshrine that definition in state law was waylaid after legislators agreed to remove contemporary examples involving criticism of Israel. More than 1,200 entities, including the State Department, 36 U.S. states, and 45 nations, have signed on to the non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism adopted by the Alliance in 2016. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.